Hey fam, I want to talk to you guys about something that's very important. Pedophiles, right? But I'm going to start out with a story that was told to me. What is that? Wait hold up. Hold up, y'all. I got a spider. In the world. Ah! Darn spider. Okay. He was just falling down. I'm glad I stopped in time and he wasn't lingering in my face while I was driving. Anyway, back to the important information that I wish to share with you guys. My mom, her mother, which is my grandmama, my maternal grandma, she had a good friend named Irma, right? Irma was a sweetheart. She was like my third grandmother. Her and my grandmother were tight. They were best buddies. They were funny because they were two Christian ladies. They would be fussing at each other sometimes, but they loved each other. They were always at one another's homes after church. Somebody would cook and I would be amongst them. So I got a lot of wise counsel from my two grandmamas, right? My adopted grandmother and my maternal grandmother. And they were really tight. And so because they were close for years, they both raised their children amongst one another. So their children were friends and everything, right? They were both like second moms to one another's children. So the grandchildren came along, myself included. I'm one of the grandchildren now. And she adopted us as well. And so as I got older, I got married and she came to the wedding, but we got divorced. And she would always check in on me. And she would always say, "Are you dating anybody?" And I would say, "No, not right now, but I would like to," because I had this dream of having a baby boy and I had two girls, right? I wanted a son. And so she would always say, "Well, you're not married. You can't be having no son." I said, "I know that." I said, "But I would like to get married again." Now, her thing was this. She was a faith-based woman, right? According to the old school people, you don't get remarried. Your husband will be your husband for life unless one of you died, you were not free to be married. So she didn't believe in that. Another issue that she had also was bringing in a man in the home that was not the father of the children, especially if they're little girls, right? So she would always say to me, "Are you dating? Well, don't be getting married again because how old are the babies?" And I would tell her, she said, "Oh, how old are you?" She said, "Oh, you still young." He said, "When they grow up and get out, that's when you can get married again." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I might want to have a baby before then." She was like, "You let them girls grow up in their home where they could be comfortable and they ain't got to worry about some man looking at them." Now, let me tell you something. I thought I was so smart when I was in my 20s. I feel like something's in my eye. I thought I was so smart. I thought I knew a lot about a lot, right? And I guess, I knew enough. So I thought. But when she started telling me certain things, these were things that I never even thought of. And I'm being honest. I never thought about the stuff she was telling me. And this is why I love older, wise women, women of God, because they're going to set you straight and they're going to tell you what they know because they believe in passing down wisdom. She was like, "Don't be bringing no men in that house around them. That's not their father." She said, "Men see girls as women. And I don't care what you say. You may think your child is a girl, but he's looking at her as a woman, a potential." You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, what? And I mean, I have had grown men do certain things, exposing their private parts and saying sexual things, and when I was younger, right? But I just never thought about, I guess I just was naive. I never thought that when you choose a mate, that they will come in your home and hurt your children like that. I just have never heard of that at the time. I never experienced that. So sometimes when you don't have knowledge, you are in danger. That's why it's good to share, right? So she was telling me that she counsels a lot of women. And she said, you wouldn't believe the horror stories. She used to counsel young women that were single with children, and she would do Bible studies with them and everything like that, right? And they would share with her because they trusted her. And she said, "Girl, I know so many horror stories." She never told me anything specific about a person because that's, a secret between her and them. But she was explaining to me that a lot of times women think it's cute when a man see them walking down the street with their 5 kids and they say, "Oh, I want to be a father to your children. I want to help take care of y'all. And it sounds good because we're struggling and we're lonely. So what would be better than having a husband in the home, helping you maintain financially and helping you keep your children in line and giving you what you need? You know what I mean? So you feel like, wow, this is an answer to a prayer. And you marry this man and he gets in the home and he begins to molest your children. So she was telling me that she's heard this story time and time again. And I was like, what? I don't know why I was so naive, y'all. I'm trying to remember how old I was. Around this time, I think I was maybe 20. I'd say I was about 26. I was single around that time, and I think I was making up my mind to go back to church. I said, I'm going to take my children to church. Well, I actually did that when I was 27. But around that time, I was single, and I was still hopeful to get a second husband so that I could have this baby boy that I had never had, right? And she was like, no. And once she broke that down to me, what was going on, that how a lot of men look at single mothers as a prey. They know we're weak. They know we're lonely. They know we're strapped financially. They know we're stressed out. And so they swoop in like some type of vulture to get in your home, make themselves comfortable, and have easy access to your children. And that is very scary. And I'm not trying to stop any woman who has children from moving on in her life and having love, because it's possible. There are some wonderful stepfathers out there. But you have to be warned about the wolves that are out there. That just because a man is saying that he'll help you take care of your children, it doesn't mean that he will. It just means he wants access to them. And we have to be so careful. And I thought that was like the best piece of advice that she's ever given me. I'm telling y'all, I was so naive. I never even thought, I just never thought about it. It never crossed my mind, right? But after she told me that, you best believe I was like, I had a boyfriend, my last boyfriend before my husband, which was many moons ago, because I was single for 14 years and celibate. So the boyfriend that I had last, me and him were together for 4 years, right? 4 years. And during that time, he was like, you know what? You're so smart. You should go back to school and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I should have done that before I had these children, because now I have a full-time job. And when I come home, it's all about them. I have to help them with homework. I don't have time to go to school now. So he was like, let me open this window. I'm getting hot. Me and my menopausal self. Right? So he was like, you can go like 2 to 3 times out the week. I'll stay with them. So y'all know that antenna went up, right? He had never struck me as a man that would do anything to my children. I've never left him alone with them because I'm not that kind of mom. I'm just really, really overprotective. I never left him with them. So when he said that, I said to myself, what? And I'm so blunt. I'm not a nasty person by no means. Very kind, sweet, loving, love people. But when it comes to my babies, I am a lioness, honey. I don't play that mess when it comes to my little girls. And so I said to him, what? I said, I'm not leaving my daughters in no house with you to go to no school, honey. I will remain uneducated if that's the case. And he was so insulted, or he pretended to be. I don't know. He acted like he was so insulted. He left and he called me later, to say, how can I think of him that way? I didn't say what I thought he was going to do to them. I just didn't think it was appropriate. You volunteering to keep my children. That antenna went up. I was like, And so my adopted grandma, Irma, her words came right flooding my brain, honey. It flooded my brain. I was like, what? And it was odd to me that he would volunteer to do such a thing. Women, we got to be so careful with our children. And I'm going to say something else. My brother, years ago, was involved with a young lady, and she had a daughter. And I was telling him, I don't like it. She was going to school. She was doing what my boyfriend was trying to get me to do. She had applied to school, so she was going to school, I think, twice a week. And they were living together at the time. And so she left her daughter with him. I'm so not into that. I told my brother, I said, I don't like the idea of you being in the house with somebody's little girl by yourself. Because we also have women who will accuse a man of doing something to his child. Don't put yourself in that situation, brothers. And it's hard to do because when you're with somebody, you are like a family. But you're not the actual dad. So if she's playing and she happens to hurt her vagina in any way, you're going to be looked at. People are going to look at you and be like, that man probably did something to her. I told my brother, don't you put yourself in that situation. The woman had a car and she had a sister that didn't live far away. I was like, let her take her child to her sister, because that's a dangerous thing to do. Lo and behold, a friend of mine from high school, I found out later that he was accused of molesting somebody's child. Now, the woman worked the night shift and used to leave the child with him. He was bathing her. He had been in the child's life since she was an infant or something like that. So when he came in, he was like playing daddy. She had a night shift job and he had the day shift. So they both were able to keep the child when the other was at work. But she trusted a man to be in between her daughter's legs to bathe her. It's just too much. My children's father would not even bathe them like that. And if they made number two, and you know how it gets all in there, I'm being explicit because that's how I am. Straightforward. You know how the mess gets all inside the vagina and you got to get in there to wipe it out. My kid's father was like, I'm not doing that. And I didn't force him, because if he felt uncomfortable about it, he said, I got to be going in there. My fingers a bit, I don't feel comfortable. I was like, all right, fine. If they, wet, they pee a little bit, he'll wipe them off really, scantily, and he'll put the pamper on them. But he was like, I'm not doing that. So to have a man who's not the father of the child to be bathing your baby and you're not around, women are too laxed. I know we want to be with a man. I know we desire a relationship. We want a father figure for the child if the father is not in their lives. I get all of that. I get it. It's ideal to be in a family because that's what God set up for us, right? But we have to be careful. And sometimes we have to sacrifice as mothers and just be alone to protect our children. I'm grateful to God that I had the strength and the stamina to be without a man and not bring anybody in the home. Because I thought about what Grandma Irma said. My daughters, the way they walk around the house when they're comfortable, they wouldn't be able to do that if a man was in the house. They wouldn't. And he would be looking at them because they're developing into a woman. It's a fact. And if they look like me and he loved what I look like, that's a younger, perkier version of me. You know what I'm saying? So we got to be careful. And it's not just about our daughters. They are molesting the boys too. And Grandma Irma told me that as well. She said, yeah, go in there messing with the boys and the girls. And I'm like, Lord have mercy. And I feel so hurt in my heart about that, because our men supposed to be our protectors and they are the predators. That is so heartbreaking. We need them so badly. And the ones that are wolves, they know it. And they use it against us to get in, to do the dirt that they do. And I want y'all to look at another aspect too, because this all goes down to what the Most High made, what he set forth, what he put forth when he made family. And that how it is so important for that original dad and that original mom to raise those children, because nobody's going to love your child like you. And don't get me wrong, there are parents who are sick and hurt their children too, women and men both, and do sexual things, abuse them, neglect them. Yes, but overall, the ideal is to keep that original family, because bringing somebody else in, it's just upsetting the whole flow of what it should be. And it's hard being lonely because some people don't like to be alone. And you want to do it with somebody. So it's hard to just say, well, I'm just going to neglect my needs and take care of this child. But once we have a baby, guess what? We make sacrifices. We make sacrifices for our children. And if you don't, then you're sacrificing them. Because it's a chance that that person that you bring in is a wolf. And that's coming in to destroy your child and wreak havoc in that home. I'm grateful to God that I stayed to myself, in those crucial years of them growing up and developing. I'm glad that I was without a man in my home, because I just don't know what could have happened. And I'm grateful to God that my children have never been molested. But I'm just making this video not to scare you, because the fear doesn't come from the Most High God. But we need to be alert and aware. We need to pay attention to the type of guy we bring around. Some guys, they will show you who they are because they have a roaming eye. They always looking. They have a sex demon. Pay attention to that. If they like messing with young girls that's way younger than them, pay attention to that. Pay attention. And make sure your babies are safe, because they come first. They come first. Peace, love, and blessings, family.